Hey guys, how's it going? Eli here, back with another video where today we're going to be having a conversation on whether the market has found its bottom and if this is now the opportunity to get in while the rebound is happening. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So first things first, I want to start off by apologizing. I made an announcement yesterday that I was going to be streaming. I actually ended up losing my voice completely yesterday, so I just couldn't talk whatsoever. I don't know if you can tell right now, but my voice is kind of very... it's very sparse. It's very hard to talk right now. I don't know what happened, but I just kind of got hit. I thought I was going to be over COVID, but it really hit me the past couple days. And kind of speaking of rebounds, it rebounded on me. So profusely apologize for getting this video out late. I wasn't able to talk this morning, but now I feel good enough to be able to post this video later in the day. But now that I got that apology out of the way, getting into the content of the video and also letting you guys know we are doing weekly giveaways. All you have to do to enter is subscribe to the channel, leave a like down below, and comment on any one of the 3 videos I post each and every week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're going to have 3 winners, 6 Fusion Strike packs for each winner, and then once again, 3 opportunities to enter, so you have a lot of opportunities to win. But without further ado, let's just jump right into it. So I'm going to try and make this one quick because I don't know how long my voice is going to last for before I lose it again. But basically, the main thing that we're going to be talking about is the price officially rebounded? You know, is it one of these things where, you know, we're starting to see that some of the prices, like for example, Brilliant Star, it got down all the way to, you know, about 110, I think. It's starting to go up a little bit. Evolving Skies went down to like 104, 105. You know, Chilling Rain was getting down to 84, 82. Battle Styles was getting down to the low 80s as well. And then, of course, Darkness Ablaze has gotten down to around 120. So it's one of those questions where you're asking yourself, okay, so you're starting to see a lot of these prices are really starting to turn around. So the question, of course, then becomes, all right, is this it? Is this the time now to start really getting in these prices? Now, of course, I'm not going to say anything from a financial advice perspective because I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm always going to give you my opinion on the thoughts of everything that's been going on. So obviously, one of the biggest main themes that we've kind of been talking about in this overall market is that there's a demand when it comes to overall price products being bought. Obviously, if there's lower demand and there's more supply, then you're going to see a lot of the supply prices drop because you're going to want to be able to sell and flip and turn around your product right away if you are a seller. Obviously, we've seen a lot of distributors kind of having product that they haven't been able to sell because the prices they're selling it for. Of course, then you have a lot of LGSs and over leveraged, you know, retailers that have been really just off selling their product. So you've seen a lot of them really start to finally flush out a lot of their product, and so you've started to see kind of like a minimalized bottom. Now I think you have a couple opportunities, or a couple, I shouldn't say opportunity, well, you do have opportunities. You have a couple outcomes that could potentially occur. Either one, you could see a slight rebound that is happening right now and then kind of a stabilization because of an overcorrection, or you could see a slight rebound and then a continuation in the market, especially considering the fact of the matter that, you know, a lot of people are like, wow, I'm picking up for super cheap, and then you're going to see that continuation of the market really start to go back down again. Or where you're going to really start to see is just an overall turnaround in the market. Those are going to be your kind of 3 things. In my personal opinion, I think you're going to see more or less the first one. I think the second one is possible, but I think that the overall market turnaround is going to be the least likely one. The reason why I believe it's going to be more than likely the first one is because, if we're being completely honest, a lot of these prices overcorrected because of that over leveraged you know, LGSs and online retailers. You had people that were, you know, putting things on credit cards, that were, you know, doing pre-sales for certain marked in prices. And then as soon as the next waves came, you know, they were trying to just be able to pay off their bills as quickly as possible, and they had to default on a lot of their product. It's selling at, you know, losses, and if they were lucky, break evens. And so for that reason, you saw that kind of any liquidity now, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it. And then when a lot of people really started to get that offloading finished, then you started to see a lot of people buy up prices. Not to mention, although of course, you know, the question is, you know, is there ever going to be a point in which you say to yourself, okay, this is the low, this is it? Well, in all honesty, the low is always going to be the point in which people are, you know, at the most willing to pay for it typically. Obviously, you're always going to have those people that are going to always be willing to pay more, but then you're going to have that general market sentiment of I'm not going to pay unless the booster boxes is at this price, right? And this is really indicative of where the supply meets the demand. And so one of the things we're going to kind of be looking at a little bit, and this is something I've actually talked about and looked at before, and I think it's a very, very important indicator when looking at the overall demand of the market, and that is the overall Google trends when it comes to looking and searching for Pokemon cards. So before I show you guys this chart, I want to preface this. One of the things that I kind of talked about in the last chart is you had that kind of upwards trajectory where you're in that kind of bull market cycle where everything's going up, and then we started to see lower highs. Once again, as I've explained before what lower highs are, basically every single time the market had its correction, when it would, turn back around, the prices wouldn't reach their prior all-time highs. So like Viv Voltage, for example, it hit its high at $200, then it dropped back down, and then when it was going back up and climbing again, it hit 160, but then it dropped back down. And the first time it corrected, it went down to 120. The second time corrected, it went down to 100. So the price continuously, as it drops more and more over time, and every time it rebounds, it goes less and less. And so you're seeing that kind of, trending pattern downwards. So it was one of these things where I'd ask the question on the last bottom, is this the end of the bottom, or is this just the beginning? Because obviously if you saw that kind of flatlining, you could see a V, you could see a W bottom. There's certain types of bottoms, people explain in the market of like, okay, is this going to be the turning point? Well, taking a look at this chart, you bet your sweet bottom, this is a disgusting chart when you're taking a look at it from an overall like kind of economics perspective. So obviously when we're just looking at this in overall demand, obviously, this is by the millions, you can see the keyword searches. You saw the price all the way, or not the price, but the overall demand go all the way up to around 100. Once it hit the kind of peak back in, December of 2020. And then you saw an absolute kind of plummet at the start of April in demand. Then you start to see it kind of do a little bit of a rebound. And then from there, it kind of did a little bit of a crash, and then it rebounded. And then the question is, okay, it rebounded. Is this it? Did a little bit of a drop, then rebounded again. And then it now is just a straight free fall. So the demand straight up went from 100 all the way down to 25. And one of the things that I kind of talked about, and we can take a look at this based off of the overall 2004 to present range, but one of the biggest things that I really talked about was, okay, if we're going to go off the history of what happened in 2016, 2017, what was the real correction that kind of happened? Did it overcorrect? Did it correct appropriately? And we saw that the overall breakout point, you can make the argument, it was 19 was the breakout point of when you started to see it kind of correct back up again. You could of course say maybe the breakout point was 25, but either way, it went from around 19 to 25 all the way up to 66, and when it corrected, it went down to the breakout point. And when I say breakout point, for those people that don't understand what I mean the overall demand. What was the demand at the time before the Pokemon market really started to skyrocket? And then once it started to die out, what was the overall demand? So if we take a look right now and we say to ourselves, okay, the overall demand breakout point right before the market really took off was, 19 was the bottom, really started to take off at 26, and then it hit that point of 100, right? We're currently sitting at about right now in the overall, we're sitting at, 38 if I'm correct is what it said. Yep, we're sitting at 38. So historically speaking, obviously, this is not 100% guaranteed, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. But if we're going just based off of historical trends, I think it's not an unfair statement to say that this is going to continue down into the mid 20s to low 20s, potentially going back all the way to 19, if this is going to historically repeat itself. Typically speaking, you don't want to really see it go back down to its breaking point, but it looks as if in the Pokemon market that's something that is not unusual to see, especially considering the fact of the matter that the movement on the next run went still parabolic and still broke its high. That's what you want to see in a healthy market. When you're seeing that back in 2016, 2017, you're still seeing that market go from 66 all the way to 100. That means that there's still an increased amount of demand over time that's continuing to go up. So honestly, if you can see it really hit that breakout point of 25, 26, I think that's good. I think that if you start to see that kind of 19 million overall interest over time go down, then I think that's going to be a little bit of an overcorrection, and that's going to be a real opportunity to get in the market, in my personal opinion. Because once again, guys, this of course is indicative of demand, and demand is indicative of prices. And more than likely, as you start to see this continue to go down, you're going to continue to see prices go down. And this right here, this isn't like like a trajectory of like, oh, it's slightly going down, it's gonna potentially curl back up. This is a straight shot down, guys. This literal dot right here, or this line, is a straight down line, which doesn't mean that you're going to see any sort of slowing momentum when it comes to this overall, you know, downward trajectory of the market. So kind of to answer the clickbaity title of the overall video, is now the time to get in, is now the bottom. I think, of course, there's always going to be opportunities. You have to really find your price points in the market. And of course, like I've said before, there are certain price points that I feel comfortable getting in. And if it does go lower, I'm just going to dollar cost average in. So, you know, not financial advice, not financial advisor. You know, if you were able to pick up Evolving Skies for $100, I think awesome, dude. I think you're in the money. I think you're great. I think you're killing it. And I think that, you know, the price of Evolving Skies could potentially rebound to 140, 160. But then I also think that once they get their next Evolving Skies reprint, you could see that price go down to sub $100. Not guaranteed. So that's why, you know, like I said, $100 was kind of that price point for me, because I can dollar cost average if it does go lower from a long-term investment perspective. So you have to just be able to like understand those points. Not to mention, of course, understanding the overall print, overall demand, as we've kind of seen, you know, Darkness Ablaze got that reprint again. Vivid Voltage got that reprint again. These sets are about a year old. Vivid Voltage, of course, you know, the single card prices in that market have really started to plummet into the ground, and it's not even really a competitively viable set in all honesty. And so that really just goes to show you that they just wanted to catch up. And so with Evolving Skies having literally just come out in August, you're saying to yourself, they are going to continue to reprint it, not only because it has that competitive viability, it has that collectability, but because they haven't done those kind of reprints like they did with a lot of the other sets. They just gave their initial waves, the price kind of plummeted because the market really kind of went down in one full swoop. And so in my personal opinion, you're really going to start to see potential, you know, continuation downwards, especially if we're following what's been going on in the market. Because I mean, guys, if we're just looking at the past 5-year chart and we're just saying to ourselves, okay, what is this? This is literally, you know, 64, and then it hit 51 as another high, and then it hit a rebound all the way up to, what is that, 47, and it retested its prior high, and then it just kept going down. Like, this is not like, and obviously this is on a 5-year chart, so when it shows 25, this is 25 mil in the overall 5-year span, not the overall lifetime span. That's kind of like averaged out differently. But with that all being said, you're just seeing once again that continued downward price action. And I've shown this chart before, and I'll continue to show it again. But I'm going to spell psychology so wrong, aren't I? The market image, simage. We're going to look at this image. This is one of my favorite charts to show people, and this is really once again going to show the overall kind of point that I'm making when looking at this. So if we take a look at this chart right here, right, and we just say to ourselves, okay, what are we seeing here? This is an overall cycle of a market. And this is one of the things I tell people, man, for those people that hate the aspect of this is something to invest in, this literally follows the same psychology as something that the overall stock market's doing. This follows the same kind of psychology of what the crypto market's doing. These are all just, you know, emotional patterns that kind of show up in the market. And as you guys can see right here, we have that kind of disbelief rally right here. Optimism really hits right here, and then you get the euphoria all the way up here. I think you have your overall first drop right here that puts you kind of in the denial stage, right around here. Then you go up, then you continue down to capitulation, anger, and then I think you're going to hit depression. I think if I'm being honest, I think that we're kind of in that anger stage right now. We're going to get that rebound, and then we're going to go back into a depression stage. So if we're just kind of scouting out and saying to ourselves, okay, what does that kind of cycle look like? Of course, nothing's definitive. We're just kind of talking these ideas through and putting out our overall opinion. Market really started to kind of take off once again. If we're talking about from the overall demand perspective, it really started to take off, you know, sometime by the end of 2020. And then it really started to get that kind of skyrocket into demand at the start of 2021, and then that's where it started to die out by April. It was one kind of big swoop. And so we can see that if we're talking about the overall start of the demand, from its bottom point right here, we can make the argument and say, okay, once kind of it hit May, June-ish area, that's when it kind of found its bottom, and then it really did that turnaround in July, August, September, and then it continued to climb. So if we say to ourselves, the overall disbelief market started, and the overall hope started in, we'll say November 1st, right? That was the kind of overall cycle, and the overall cycle continued up until, you know, the start of February is what we're going to say, right? You hit your complacency, you hit your overall, you know, kind of denial, bottom to top. in May, and then once again you just continue down for the next year. With that being said, if we're in that kind of stage, my personal prediction, obviously it's just prediction, please take everything I say with a grain of salt, I think we got at least another more year, because especially when you see parabolic moves like this, the more parabolic it goes, the more kind of time it's going to take for it to recover. We can take a look, for example, as to something that's been going on with Bitcoin. And this is actually very important for a lot of people to see, because with everything that's been going on in the traditional markets, these are actually very important things for you guys to understand, because traditional markets, of course, are going to play factors into how everything's going to kind of play effect into consumer sales. Because when you have your overall growth in an economy, you basically want to have that continued GDP growth stimulation with people spending money. But when you start to see markets start to go down, whether it be in the crypto space, whether it be in the overall, traditional space, and when I say traditional, I mean stocks, obviously, then obviously that is something that's very important. And one thing we've also talked about as well, there's been a huge correlation in regards to the price of Bitcoin compared to the overall Pokemon market. What do you know? Absolute complete pitfall. We just saw an absolute huge crash in demand with Pokemon recently. Well, what do you guys know? What just happened recently to Bitcoin? It went from 69,000 all the way down to, 41,000. I think that's absolutely crazy. That's a huge crash in the overall Pokemon market as well as the overall Bitcoin market. It's kind of interesting how these guys have literally been one for one parallel, and they've just been correlating so well. Not to mention the fact of the matter, for those people that don't know what's been going on with traditional, basically the Fed came out and announced that they're going to be coming out in March with trying to raise interest rates as well as taper sooner than later is kind of what their plan is for that. And with that being said, you kind of saw a huge reaction in the overall market not that long ago. We can take a look and see what's been going on with obviously the S&P 500. For those who don't know, this is just an index that, of course, is still one that's very important to take a look at when looking at the overall demand in the market. We take a look at this chart and we can see to ourselves that this, it looks very toppy. We went up, we tried again, and then it dropped. And this overall last week candle has really started to drop. Now, of course, once again, with all of this being said, that doesn't mean that, it's the end of the bull market, everything's going to crash. I'm not saying that whatsoever, but what I am saying is that it looks like traditionals with the news that's kind of coming out and panicked, unless we really get a rebound. This is going to kind of trickle into the overall market demand for retail products such as Pokemon. And once again, seeing that correlation with Bitcoin, that's going to also play a huge factor. So wouldn't be surprised if it's one of these things where you could potentially see kind of a retrace in the overall market to either continue to go down, products going to continue to go down, or you could potentially see, a little bit of a retry for the high, and then you could see that kind of little bit of a pity bounce when it comes to Pokemon product overall. But at the end of the day, I think that, although retailer goods is of course correlated into the overall demand of the overall, Pokemon consumer market, I do think it's one of these things that it still has its own kind of individual demand regardless of how the economy is doing. So best way to look at it, if the economy is good, it helps retail markets all together. But at the same exact time, if the retail market in and of itself has a general low demand because it has its own market cycle, it's still going to have a factor to how much growth it's going to get. That's the best way of kind of explaining it. And for those people that are into cryptocurrency, the best way to explain it is by looking at the US dollar pair compared to looking at the overall Bitcoin pair. If you take, let's take Ethereum, for example, right? If the price of Bitcoin goes up, because the Bitcoin dominance is in control of the overall value of all other cryptos, Ethereum in and of itself will go up. But since Ethereum has its own individual value, if it decides to also go up at the same time as its dominance compared to Bitcoin, it will go up twice as much. Or if it decides to go down while the Bitcoin dominance is going up, sure, Bitcoin is going to go up and it's going to bring Ethereum, because all rising tides raise ships. It's just not going to go up as much. And so that's what we're kind of seeing right now, is we're seeing kind of that double down when it comes to the overall market. You're seeing the overall traditionals go down. You're seeing the overall demand in Bitcoin as well as Pokemon product go down. And so you're really starting to see kind of like an influx of the market just really coming down real quickly. Or I should say no longer an influx in the market. Everything's just starting to go away. Of course, like I've said to you guys before, I apologize if this is kind of something that's going way over people's heads. I try and explain this the best I can because I know this is kind of Pokemon oriented when it comes to talking about things in this channel, but I do think this is still something very important for you guys to understand, because when you ask these questions to me like, hey Eli, why do you think the market's going to go down, you obviously want to have that kind of backing and evidence as to why I believe these things. I can't just say because I believe that the Pokemon card prices are going to go down because I just feel like it is, because I feel like they're overvalued. Well, if I feel like they're overvalued, doesn't mean the overall rest of the market feels overvalued, right? If I sit here and I say, man, this card's crazy expensive, I don't think it should be worth that much. Although I could be true in that kind of instance, if the overall market deems that it's actually worth more, then that's what the market believes. And so we take a lot of these overall ideas and concepts in other markets, as well as just historical evidence when looking at these charts to kind of predict what's the overall future going to be for the overall Pokemon market. And we've seen so much correlations in regards to looking at these other charts. So hopefully all of that makes sense. Once again, kind of wrapping it up. Do I think that the bottom's in? No, I think we could see a continuation of a bottom. Do I think that this is an opportunity to still be able to get in? Of course. But like I said, understand that the way in which I approach things is not going to be the way in which everyone else approaches things. I tried getting Evolving Skies at $100. If you got in at $100, great. You've made a couple on the back end. If you're saying to yourself, I think that I missed out, I want to get in now, you can still get in. But just understand, don't go full, all the way in. If it decides to go down more, then just go halfway in now, halfway in later, dollar cost average. If not, then you can just, put all in and then just take the risk that you're taking. But once again, not financial advice, not a financial advisor. You take your own approach. I take my own approach because it doesn't work the same for everyone. And then lastly, once again, why am I saying all these things? Why am I explaining to you why I think that the bottom is not in? We took a look at the charts. We saw that the demand has continued to go down based on the overall Google Trends, which of course we've seen has been a very big correlating factor in regards to prices. And then we've seen the factors that are at play with in regards to traditional markets and the policies that are going to play factor with what the Fed has announced, on top of the fact of the matter that Bitcoin has been a big correlating factor into the overall prices of the Pokemon market in and of itself. Obviously, that's a lot for you guys to handle, especially considering I did this all in 21 minutes and I sound like freaking raspy as all could get out. Please, if this is something that's confusing, you have questions, you have a lack of understanding, but hopefully I feel like I explained things as best as I could so you guys could really understand kind of the concepts and the ideas I'm bringing forth as to why this stuff is going to continue to go down, in my personal opinion. But as far as it goes, that is kind of my main points for the video. As always, please feel free to leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It does enter you into our weekly giveaways, which we will be announcing once again every single Monday. 3 winners each and every week, 6 Fusion Strike per winner of booster packs. You can enter in multiple times because we do post videos Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So with all of that being out of the way, hopefully you guys found this video informative. And like I said, please leave a comment down below if you have any questions or if you disagree or agree on what kind of the content I'm putting out. But yeah, as far as it goes, thank you guys all so much for watching. Until then, I will see you guys on Monday. Peace.